What was the cost breakdown per tent?
They're about $750 per tent. You could probably assume $2,000 on each tent. And then per night, it's almost equitable to like a hotel room. I mean, you're making money back really quickly. It's like 20 days. That's crazy. I mean, I don't know what else you can invest in that you can make your money back that quickly.
So you've been around for 50 years. You've been through the '08 recession, and I guess more recently, and maybe more importantly, the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect business in like the outdoor camping landscape?
I think the pandemic was actually really good for camping. It definitely, we saw a boom in business because I think people tried to get outside rather than go indoors. So a lot of the hotels like were down where we were up, and people were trying to get campers. So people were buying campers like crazy, and then we were trying to supply them with the spots to, fill that.
Yeah,
And
to hang out.
Mm-hmm. And we definitely were able to do that. And the yurts were a really good middle point for people who didn't want to buy campers. So they were still able to get outside, but didn't have to buy anything to do that.
So do you call them tents or yurts?
We have both. We have the tents that don't have any electric and no linens, and they rent for less per night. And then we have the yurts, which have electricity, linens, and just like more amenities, and they rent for a little bit more every night.
So at what point did the tents and the yurts come about? Like were the conversations going on before the pandemic hit, or was that during pandemic and then they were getting built after, or how did that kind of formulate?
They actually came the year before the pandemic started. I proposed them as an idea because I saw it on Pinterest and I thought it was a good idea to do. And my mom and my grandparents thought it was really crazy. And then we just put up 2. We basically rented them out 5 out of 7 nights the first summer that we put them up. So we put up 3 more the next year, and that was the pandemic. So during the pandemic, we just sold them out, and we just kept putting more up after that.
So you said with your mom and then grandparents,
mm-hmm.
you had that conversation. So what did that conversation look like that when you guys met and you had this idea, and obviously it was a very good idea. What was the conversation like? Did you guys break down the investment and then like when you would predict the return, or how did that go?
Yeah, I think I am the one usually that proposes it because they argue against it a lot, mostly because we've been a campground for so long, and I think we should lean more towards like short-term rental space, like cabins, Airbnbs, things like that, because I think we can make an entire customer base out of that. Like people will come just for those, and there's not really any market for that in the area. So I basically laid out how much they would cost just down to put them up totally, and then per night how much you can expect to make back given everything you have to do. So like cleaning, you need to make sure you have the infrastructure to support it. That's kind of the issue, is that we saw a lot of people try to copy us and they didn't have the infrastructure to support what they were doing, so they failed. And that was like the most interesting thing to learn, was like you have to have the proper place to do it to be able to get it going.
What do you mean by infrastructure? Like labor and
like somebody to clean it every day, bathrooms that are reliable and easy to use and that people want to use, because and also like basically having a place to clean all of your linens, because that's difficult too. Like there's a lot of different things that I don't think people think through when they think about a short-term rental that's like more difficult. Laundry, cleaning, bathrooms, those are all things that are really hard to kind of plan out. And I don't think a lot of people think through them when they are like, I can put up a tent and put it out in the woods and somebody's going to buy it. And it's like, they will, but then they're not going to be that happy, because we had somebody down the road try to put up a hose in a tree and call it a shower. And I was like, I don't know.
So did you guys have to expand your infrastructure, or were you just fortunate to already have it on the property?
We've expanded since we started for sure, but we had a lot
Okay.
of it already existing. So we were able to make some of what we had work, but we've definitely had to like add in more washers and dryers that were just for us to use for the linens that we have that come in every day. Cause we probably do 20 loads of laundry a day just for the yurts. And we only have 9 of them. We have to our cleaning lady spends 5 hours a day cleaning them. And that is like half of her work. So if we didn't have her, then we just wouldn't be able to have them. And most people can't find reliable people to work in that town. And that's kind of a problem. I found a really pervasive problem in St. Ignace that people can't find someone to clean their rentals. So I think unless you have something like that, it's an issue as well.
So how many people do you have employees, or are they all contractors, or like what's your labor landscape? And then
We have
how
employees.
many people did Okay, so you have employees, and then I think I noticed that they live on site.
Some of our employees do. So we have a groundsman that lives on site, and then we have 2. So like I'm the assistant manager, and our manager live on site, and then we have kind of our rotating employees that are cleaners that don't live on site. They come in and work a few hours every day.
And so how much more labor, I know you kind of touched on it, but like how much more labor did the tent expansion require versus the concept you had before the tents came into play? Like, did you have to hire a whole new person in order to tackle that extra load?
Absolutely.
Or was everybody able to?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have to hire multiple people?
Yeah, I would say because you need somebody to be able to someone has to clean like the interior of all of those units. That's a job completely for itself. And then the bathrooms and like the outside of the unit is a separate job. And you don't really want the person who's cleaning the inside to get bogged down with that stuff. We kind of tried to do that, and it's difficult because you can see that the quality of the listing will slip if you try to give one person the job of 2. And so we did that, and then we noticed like you can see this like the listing go from a 4.9 down to a 4.8 because of somebody trying to rush through bathrooms to get to the listing.
Did you know that before the construction began on these, or was this something that you learned along the way?
No, I found that out along the way.
Did you talk to anybody that had done this before everything was built, or were you guys just kind of like the finances check out, let's just do it and see what happens?
Yeah, that was it. Because I didn't know if anybody else had done it really, so we just like definitely not in this area where we were at. So it was like, let's just throw them up, see what happens. Like, and it worked really well. But
and then you said, so before like I hit record, we were talking a little bit. You said it was $750 for the tent. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the cost what was the cost breakdown per tent? And then what do you
so they're about $750 per tent. And then I mean, you could probably assume about $2,000 on each tent, and then the base and whatever you're going to put inside, maybe more. And then per night it's almost equitable to like a hotel room.
I think I paid like 100 some bucks, something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, we could probably charge more than we're charging right now, but we keep it right around 100. And so if you're making 100 back every night, and I mean, that's not all you're not going to make all of that back, but you're making money back really quickly. It's like 20 days, right? That's crazy. I mean, I don't know what else you can invest in that like you can make your money back that quickly.
That's why I'm so interested in this concept, because I mean, from one standpoint, it's super desirable. Like, I don't know you mentioned you found the concept on Pinterest. It's like, people love just seeing that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, I mean, the return is you just said 20 days, you're making your
and if $2,000,
$3,000 back.
Aesthetically pleasing to somebody, that is really all you have to do to pull them in. Like, they're in as long as it looks good. And then it's just, you have to keep it at that same level. And as long as you're at that same level all the time, people are so keen on it and we have great reviews and it's just easy to like year after year keep it at the same level. So I think they're great investments as long as you're able to put up like the upfront cost of having to get in like infrastructure for it.
Right. Okay. So one of my questions was, did you guys just paid for it all at once? Like, I mean, $2,000 isn't a crazy investment.
We only put in like 2. We started with 2, saw how those went, and then built up. Like, I think we did 3 more the year after that, and then maybe 2 more the year after that, and then kept going like that.
Okay. Yeah. And then I drove around when I was there. I drove around. You said you have 9 right now currently?
We have 9 yurts and 4 tents.
Okay. Yeah. I drove around a little bit and it looked like you guys almost filled up the rest of the campground with those things.
Yeah. The way that I talked them into it was telling them that the site that those tents are on was originally a primitive site, which only makes $32 a night. And if we can make like $100 a night on the same site, why wouldn't we? And so they were like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And so I was like, see?
So one thing I always wondered is there's the hidden secrets behind the tent. And I guess I'm wondering, do you have to take it down every winter?
Oh, yeah.
So is there so there's a setup and take down every single year that you have to do?
Oh, yeah. That's like really the worst part about it, I guess. Is like they're up and down every year. And they have a lot of I guess structural issues with the tent themselves. Like they're not really built to be used by that many people over and over again. They are used really harsh because of that. So like the zippers break. We've had that problem a lot this year. There's holes in the yurts. Like people drag the beds around, so there's holes in the floor. Like just weird stuff happens because so many people are using them.
Assuming the manufacturer of those things isn't really that close, how often are you replacing parts? Like how often do you have to have a tent be empty because a zipper is in the mail somewhere?
I mean, we've replaced probably 5 yurts this summer.
5 whole ones?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's a $750 repair every single tent.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, for some that kicks the return on investment in 20 days. That's just a battle, I suppose, you have to fight.
Absolutely, yeah. See, it's like, but some years we won't replace a tent at all. Like it won't happen. So
sure,
it's like a complete lottery of whether or not we'll even have to touch them. But unfortunately, like if people like tear through the doors like they have been, then like we do just have to replace them. And so that's why I think I'm looking more at like a cabin style, something more permanent that does not have the structural issues that a tent would. Like a tent is just not, while it does have the great return on investment, you cannot rely on them to be like long standing. You'll make your money back and you'll probably make quite a bit of money, but you're not going to like make a ton of money year after year after year.
Well, and then you have the seasonality aspect of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas with a cabin, you're year round. So with the cabins, did that idea come from, did it come from, oh my gosh, there's so many repairs I have to do with the tents? Or did it come from kind of the same idea of there's this remote work boom going on and people kind of like to work from the middle of the forest?
That came from like I wanted to lengthen our season because the yurts they get kind of cold and we can only really have them open from the end of May to the beginning of October. And we are there at the park from like the end of April to the end of October. And I'm like, if we had some kind of permanent building up, we could sell it and people would be interested because the rest of the park is empty, but the yurts are selling. If I could just sell something a little more, like a little warmer that people would want to go in the winter, I think they'd buy it. And so the cabins are from that, just wanting to lengthen the season, but it would avoid a lot of the other issues that are with the yurts.
In the works right now? Are you pitching to the family again, saying, "Hey, my idea last time was
Oh yeah.
turned out pretty well"? Are you
Oh yeah.
are you having these board meetings and doing that?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out where to put them.
Oh, so has it already been approved?
Yeah, yeah. We're just trying to get it. We're trying to
Nice.
finalize like where we're gonna get them. I ideally what I would like is to have multiple areas in the campground where it's like yurts in one area, cabins in another area, tree houses in another area, like that, where it's a bunch of little congregated short-term rental areas. So people can rent them out for like events or group stuff because that's usually what our bread and butter is. We want groups to rent all of them out.
There's a similar concept to you guys in Hayward, Wisconsin. I talked to the owners of that.
Yeah.
And this was like during the middle of the pandemic. And I was talking because they had just put up cabins of their own. I mean, their thought process sounded exactly like what yours is. And they were just like, yeah, honestly, the second we put up those cabins, they go, we could live just off the cabins.
Yeah.
And they have a 30 site campground alongside of them.
I don't know why we would do anything other than that. Like, I've been trying to propose this for so long because I'm like, people right now is our we're slowing down into, our off season. On our nights when we're not very busy, the only things we sell are the yurts. But we sell them. And it's like, why aren't we selling more of these? Like, why aren't we trying to do all of these?
Well, and then the same conversation with this campground owner. They talk about like, yeah, people that work remote, they'll just come up and stay for an entire week. In the winter, in the spring, it doesn't matter. They're up there because they gotta get away from their boss.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I think that's a great idea for whatever.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. One last question I have, because I know we're kind of short on time here.
Yeah, no worries.
What would one tool or product, like if you had one tool or product that doesn't exist that would make your life better, what would that product do, or what would that product be? Like a tool?
I would like to eventually shortcut Airbnb as a way to do bookings. I don't want to use our system necessarily to book for cabins, but some kind of software to book outside of Airbnb. Because right now that's exclusively how we book people. It's really good in terms of, they have an entire base of customers, but they take a lot of money off of each booking.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and I would love to find like some kind of system to book people on our own, but we've done that a couple of times and it's gone really badly for us. So I don't think like we can do it as of yet, like the way we have it now. I need some kind of way to like verify people's ID or something. But I would love something like that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah. So pretty much something to just like get rid of the middleman. I mean,
yeah, I would love that. Yes.